This is the
What are you gonna
Craig
talk
L.
about
Hayes
now?
Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show. We're back with Randy Cardinal. We're going to do episode number 2. I forgot to give a date today. Today is the 10th of September, 2025. And like I said, we're coming from the Northern Command Center up here in Enterprise, Utah. Be heading back next week to do some interviews to the Southern Command Center, Elvis Presley's dressing room at the Westgate Resort in Las Vegas. So the interviews continue all over the place. We're going to keep these going. So Randy, we had talked a little bit about you. We got through Vietnam. We got through a couple of things. And I'll let you take and get that phone call. I'll put you on pause here for just a second. All right. We are back. Got rid of the phone. Stuff happens. This is live. I don't edit. I don't cut out anything. I just leave it raw. And this is showbiz, people. Once we start, we don't stop. So, okay. So, I know when you started working out of 720, did you start right off working over at the dunes during that Casino de Paris stuff?
Yeah, because Danny, they needed a welder over there, and Don Hauser, said he was a welder, but he wasn't.
No, he's not.
And so I went over there. Danny had put me on the crew. After I did a lot of work. I mean, I don't know how many months I worked for nothing. And then I worked on that show and did the rigging and did everything I could do, you know.
What year did you start doing that?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
It had to be...
It was back when Major Riddle had it. Everything back then was a lot better when the mob had it.
Yeah.
Once the corporations come in, everything got kind of crummy.
That had to be early 70s, right? Somewhere around the 70s, 70
Probably,
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were there quite a while working and like you say, doing all the stuff. And the show was it Casino de Paris then?
Casino de Paris.
Yeah, it was the main show there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that was another one of those from France, because we had Casino de Paris, we had the Lido down at Stardust. What was the one at Tropicana?
Follies.
Follies, thanks. I almost had, you beat me to it. You know, you're older than me and your memory was better than mine. That's pretty good. Follies, yes. We had 3 production shows from France at 3 different hotels. We don't do that anymore.
No.
Those are all gone. Now they're all Cirque shows. Cirque du Soleil shows. And, yeah. So anyway, during the 70s, I met you when we built Jubilee.
Right.
This is going to 1980, so we've kind of skipped over a little bit of time, but let's talk about that in 70. I think it was 77, 78. We were building the stuff for Hollywood Hello up in Reno. 77, yeah, 77, 78. You guys were building the plane.
Yeah.
We were building the what do you want to call it? The San Francisco earthquake and a couple other things over at Design Concepts. I mean, I was 15 at the time.
Yeah.
I was over there working. I was just a laborer, cleaning steel, stacking it, loading trucks, time.
We all went through that.
Hey, you had to. You had to pay your dues, man. You had to pay the dues. No big deal. And at our shop, there was, Ben Carlson was there.
Yeah.
And, man, I cannot remember a lot of the guys that were there. But, yeah, you were over at the other shop over there on Harmon and whatever that.
Wherever it was, yeah.
Street. I remember the area. I just can't remember the exact location. But, yeah, interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about the building and the stuff we used to build and stuff like that. You had to figure out the airplane. You had to figure out the wing. You had to figure out.
Oh, a lot of things.
And like we were talking a little bit about it, there was no computers figuring this out for us.
When the computers came in, it was more of a hassle because the computer would make things look like they'll work, but they won't. For example, the guy running the computer would depend on with the width of the lines. If you had to build walls to go like in a room to go between 2 walls, you had to go measure it. you couldn't count on the computer.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't accurate back then, you know. And so a lot of things still had to be done by the seat of your pants because everybody relied on it, but it really wasn't accurate.
Yeah. I took a lot of architecture and drafting in school. And everybody does everything on CAD now. You know.
See, back then in the A&D shop, because I took those courses, I used to do the drawings for the welders. I would take parts out so I could give them the information that they needed to build a part.
Yeah.
So we could put it together, you know. I did a lot there. It was a tough place to work, though. You know. But you mentioned Elvis earlier.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking. I used to take extra work. So Jack Young and I were at the Hilton. We were putting a swing in. We had in the Anti-Pros, we had to weld some things up there so she could be on a swing.
Oh.
Every night, Elvis would come up out of the elevator. He would come over and talk to us, him and his entourage. And you know how stupid I am? I never asked for an autograph. I could have had him sign my head, my glove. And I talked to him for 2 weeks every night. And he was cool. He was a nice guy. I mean, it was just a regular guy, you know.
That's what everybody that worked around him said. He said he was one of the very nice person to be around.
But
probably earlier, I think later on,
Well, it got tougher.
It got tougher.
It's tough to be one of those because you don't have a life. You think it's wonderful, but you don't have a life. Yeah. And then I was the stage manager at the Dunes, and I worked with Robert Goulet for quite a bit. I got around quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. I had some. I was at the Aladdin, and we did rigging. I was the flyman, and for Lola Falana, for the Marie, you know, the Osmonds.
Mm-hmm.
We had to rig these different things, you know. And so it was really interesting. And of course, at the Dunes, we had no grid.
Yeah.
So back then, everything had to be done in a different way. I used to have counterweights running up around the wall for a lift that was out in the room. I mean, it was just different, you know.
But you figure it out. That's the whole thing.
That was it. It's like, and I counted on God, believe it or not. Sometimes I get in a spot. Like one time, Freddie Joseph sent a sign and told me what it weighed, but it was wrong. And we got the thing halfway up. We couldn't move it up or down, you know. So the next morning I went back and I knew what to do. And we figured it, you know. But it was different because you were forced to meet the need.
Yep.
Otherwise you wouldn't have your job, you know. But it was an interesting time, yeah.
The thing that amazed me with you guys when we were building Jubilee, I want to go just back to Jubilee, is you guys were all working your shows at night.
Yeah.
2 shows a night, 6 nights a week. And then you guys would have to come back. Then you guys, you know, guys on your crew were coming over and working.
Oh, sure.
Over at the shop building Jubilee. Jubilee. It was like, you guys never slept, never. It was like, you know, I tell people stagehands it's brutal being a stagehand.
Can be.
And people don't believe me, but it's like, no, it can be very brutal, guys, because stagehands are whores. We all want to take and go out and make every dollar we can make, and we'll do 3 jobs a day, 5 days a week for 6 months until we finally fall down and go into convulsions, you know, just as long as we're making a couple dollars, you know. We're horrible people about that stuff, but it's just what we do. You know, I've done that myself. You know, I have a full-time gig here, but I still go and pick up another full-time gig somewhere else. And it's like, why? You know?
Well, you know, back then, too, it was something else because, well, I can't get into a lot of it, but they were bringing people into the union that had no talent, nothing. And so a lot of times you would want to have I worked in Pat Huffline's shop. I worked with Al Bash because there wasn't a lot of guys around. Because I made money, don't get me wrong. But sometimes you wanted to draw the guys in that could help you.
Yep.
Because you had a lot of guys that were there, and they taught them to breast curtains and to do things and do cues, but they weren't so adept at building and rigging and stuff. We used to build motors and to lift, and so a lot of times you showed up because they needed somebody, even when you didn't want to. And that's how it was a kind of like a brotherhood. I think we tried to cover all the bases, so that stagehands were always doing the job. And then when they went to negotiate the contract, they couldn't say we couldn't do this, couldn't do that. Like when I can't remember what hotel it was, but they gave the contract to the ironworkers. Oh, it was the MGM. And it was an underhung grid and everything, and they screwed the whole thing up. And we went in there and straightened it out, and took months. Because they thought they could do it better, but they couldn't. They didn't understand it.
Yeah. And that's the funny part about it is, I've seen that over the years that they have some other union try to do the stuff that we do, and they can't do it, but everybody thinks they can.
Yeah, but it's different. It's so different.
It's so funny to do that. So, what that was 1980. I'm just going to move forward a little bit. When did you leave the Dunes, and then you went to A&D Scenery after that?
No, I went to A&D Scenery. Yeah, because I had worked with Hauser, and there was an opening there, so I went to work at the Dunes, and I worked there for a while. And in Don Hauser was a good guy, but he was a gambler, and he liked his booze,
Oh, boy, did he, yeah.
And he got into it, Pierre, the stage manager, and he quit a couple of times. Finally, Pierre said, okay, and he hired me as the carpenter. I was about 30 years old. And so that was a tough thing. I took the job, and we muddled through it. But I had a lot of experience, because a lot of those, like I told, they would come over from France or England, and they weren't complete. They would say they were complete because Pierre would go over and look at them and say, oh, everything works, but it didn't. And so we would have to spend time straightening the mess out, And then I from there I went to A&D Scenery and so on,
How many years did you do at A&D?
Oh, I think it was probably 13 or 14 years, yeah. First I was just working, and then I became the shop foreman. There was another guy there, Joe Reed, and he should have got it, but they slighted him, and Alan De Leon took the foreman's job, and then he was disgruntled, but he was a great stagehand, too. I don't know if you know Joe Reed.
Oh, yeah. Very well.
And I ended up with the job, and I always hoped that he didn't think I cut him out, because I didn't. It's just that he wasn't doing what he could do because he was mad,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough place to work.
Yeah, all those personalities.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Yeah, when Randy says he took the carpenter's job, what he's saying is he took the head carpenter's job on a stage, which is the boss of everything. Everything goes through the head carpenter. He's in charge of the lighting guys. He's in charge of the sound guys. He's in charge of the fly rail. He's in charge of everything. It's a lot of responsibility, a lot of stuff that you have to be paying attention all the time,
I'll tell you a little secret. We had to rig some things in the showroom, but we had no grid. So some of it was hand cranked, and I had the counterweights running behind the rail. But they were building that building next to the Dunes. I don't remember what it was.
Is that the one that was called the Oasis or something
Maybe.
like that?
So I got to be friends with the engineer. So I never told anybody, but I'd have a problem. I'd go over and talk to him, and he'd help me figure it out, and then I'd go back and do it, You had to just use all possible angles you could to get that, because I was young and I hadn't had a lot of experience.
Yeah, but it sounds like you were wise enough to use
Well,
some guys that had some experience.
Yeah,
That says a lot right there.
And then eventually I kind of matured, and so.
Yeah. Instead of trying to lie your way through or bluff or it's like go find out the real answer on it.
I can give you an example of what used to come from Europe. If they brought we had a ballroom scene, and it was a boat, and there was the front of the boat had to be raised. So every time they try to raise it, it would bust the shaft in the motor, And I tried to tell them that the way you got it rigged, the front of the boat's trying to lift the back. And finally they agreed, so I compounded the thing, and then we could pick it up, Things used to come like that. I couldn't understand why they didn't understand how to do stuff. They had an engineer with them, And I was brilliant, but it was just common sense,
Yeah. It's just looking at it and going through it in your head. And
you got to understand, I learned a lot from Hauser, from Al Bash, from Pat Huffine, from so many guys, And I just would be quietly pick everything up I could,
Well, you worked with some guys that were like legends in the local.
Oh yeah.
Pat Huffine, Al Bash. These guys were just, brilliant.
Incredible, weren't they?
Just brilliant.
Yeah.
On building and stuff. And as Al Bash said, I was like, okay, so what was your job? Because I'm an apprentice now in 1980, and Al Bash is like walking around doing stuff, but Richard Kelly is the head carpenter. And so when I did the interview, I finally said, "What were you?" He goes, "I was the problem solver." Okay, that makes total sense. And we had Bobby Simmons there.
Yeah, he was wonderful carpenter. Incredible.
That guy could build anything out of anything.
Yeah.
Just amazing. That 1980, building Jubilee, 1981, a show like that will never get built by Local 720. I don't think we have the guys that could do it.
Maybe no, I don't know.
I don't think we
but
have
I know
the guys.
It was different.
We don't have the builders. I mean, they're all in the scenery shops around town, and they're all, PRG, A&D's got them, Alan De Leon has his, what's a Dynamic, I think is his place. We have all these guys, but we don't have those guys in our local.
Yeah.
Where when we went to build Jubilee, it was like, okay, we need 8 welders, fiberglasser,
Sure.
we could man it, no problem. We got them. Here they are. Let's go to work.
I'll tell you a story about Al Bash. Working with Al was great. If he could solve problems and help you, but if you weren't putting yourself into it, and somebody would go to him, he would say to them, "Use your head, figure it out," and he'd walk away, because he didn't have patience with people that weren't trying.
Yeah.
And you had those guys too. They'd walk around the shop all day long and do nothing,
Yeah.
But I used to laugh, because he would just use your head, figure it out, and they'd just stand there looking at him,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, he, my dad and him were good friends for a long time. And he said, "Hey, come with me. I'm going to show you something you can show your dad." Okay. And one of the drains in the paint shop were clogged up. And so he grabbed a CO2 fire extinguisher to blow all the crap out of there. Well, it blew apart.
Oh, sure.
And the pressure went from the thing he was holding, went up and hit him right in the forehead and split his forehead open.
Really?
He reaches up, he's got blood running down, and he looks at me and goes, "Well, you should probably not teach your dad that." It was one of those things, and so I saw it happen, so I had to say what happened. And he goes, "I just walked into a little piece of scenery that was sticking out right," and I was like, "Yep, you sure did. That's all." Whatever. Whatever it is, I don't care.
We did some work for your dad too. Up there in the school where at the college,
Oh, okay.
they wanted to. We used to build these trusses and then motorized so you could lift things, and we built something for that school up there.
I bet
Never was
SUU.
up there, but yeah.
Yeah.
But he was in the shop a lot, watching and seeing what we were doing.
Was that when you were at A&D?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I used to see your dad around a lot and stuff. And of course, I worked with John at A&D. He was there for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it was, it was an interesting life.
So that takes us through the 80s, and you're at A&D Scenery. Man, you guys did. A&D was such a busy place. You guys were. It was. There was times when things would come back, and I remember just going over there and seeing my brother sometimes, and the risers were all stacked up all around the place, in the place, all over. I'd go back and see him like a week later, nothing. Everything's gone, because they're out on jobs.
We built so many of those platforms and
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I used to get sick because you had to, as they were building their inventory, you had to build more of them because they needed more of them.
Yeah.
For the next job, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those. It just, the snake that eats its own tail.
Yeah.
You need more because they're renting more, so you build more so they can rent more. Then you got to build more so they can.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're just going in this circle nonstop, building risers and your risers weren't small over there. You guys had big risers.
Oh yeah, because it was easier to put that together than the small 4x8s or whatever it was. I don't know what they're doing now, but
I have no idea either.
Make a real stage out of those things. They were like what, 8
by 16, 8 by 20s. Yeah. Well, you had a few different sizes so they could, make some things, but I think they were all like 8 by 12, 8 by 16, 8 by 20.
Yeah, thrust, they were strong.
Yeah, and everything was light,
Well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, that stuff they got built over there was amazing,
And then we did, with Al Bash, I worked on Siegfried and Roy's stuff. And then at A&D, we worked on David Copperfield. He's eccentric as anybody you've ever met.
Yeah.
Be 120 degrees out on the blacktop, and he'd come to the shop with a cape, wrapped in a black cape and everything, And he would spend more on rehearsal mirrors and stuff than other people spent on the product that they wanted.
Yeah.
He had quite a lot of money, I guess. I don't know. He was a nice guy, but...
Yeah, he's just doing it his way.
Strange.
Yeah, he was a little bit of an oddball, but hey, it's his money. He could do whatever he wants. It's his money. Yeah, and so you did 13, 14 years at...
Yeah.
Let me see, make sure we're not going to go over. Check my eye. Okay. We'll just real quick go back to Jubilee. The personal projects, Government Day Fridays.
Oh, sure.
You remember those?
Yeah.
Now, Government Day was you worked till noon. You came in at 7, 8 o'clock. You worked till noon, and you could work the rest of the day, which is 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever we were doing, either 8s or 10s, on whatever project you want to make. Remember all the trailers that got built in there?
Yeah.
The flatbed scenic moving trailers. And the place would, and the MGM paid for it all except for, on the trailers, they wouldn't pay for the axles and the wheels and like the tongue, there's certain things that, but if it was just making it, they'd pay for it. They made unbelievable what they'd do.
When I worked at the Dunes, I used to go to Abkar's house. I used to build things for Frederick at his house. Railings and stuff. I mean, it was always a government project, or you could do stuff for yourself, yeah. It was a whole different atmosphere. I got my son into the union, and he eventually committed suicide, but it was a different world then. everything like with the magic show at the one place. I can't think of the guy's name, but everything was motorized and computerized, and it was just different.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Trying to think who that would be that had that. I mean, we had some. We went through those phases. You have Siegfried and Roy, and then you had Lance Burton, and then you had Dirk Arthur. You had a slew. Everybody had their own magician.
yeah, there was.
Now now nobody has magicians.
No.
That's all over with.
But there was quite a thing.
Interesting times back then. It was.
Yeah.
And I remember building some stuff for Siegfried and Roy for Al Bash while we were building Jubilee.
Yeah. Well.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, but it was different, because everybody kind of worked together because we wanted everyone to believe that stagehands could do it.
Yep.
And we would go above and beyond sometimes to do it, so that when the contract time come, no one could point a finger and say you couldn't do it because we did it.
Yeah. Well, we had the best builders. We had the best electricians.
Yeah.
I mean, that shop was amazing.
Oh, sure.
And I'm an apprentice, and so I had the advantage. I got to learn from everybody.
Sure.
I just didn't go in there and weld, but I'd work with the welders, and they'd show me how to weld. They'd show me how to do all these stuff. Then I'd go work with the electrician with Alan DeLeon and Bob Smith and all these guys, and they would, I think Bob Smith was White, Walt White, not Walt, his dad.
Walter White.
Yeah.
I don't know his dad's
first
name.
But his dad was there.
Good. Yeah, wonderful.
These guys would show you the electric, so, and then there was Gordy and his buddy that did the fiberglass.
Oh, yeah.
And all they did is gave me a bad time just for the fun of it. So,
really?
But you're an apprentice. You got to take it.
He made the tail on that plane, Gordy.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and I think the nose, the front, yeah. He was great.
He was
I bumped into him in Arizona. He was living on the beach in Mexico. I don't know. I just saw him one time, I don't know if he's still around.
Last I heard, he was, he's retired, obviously. He's up there. He's retired, and he's living, last I heard, somewhere up north of Utah, like Richfield,
right?
Somewhere up there for a while, but I don't know if that's
You ever heard
true
anything
anymore.
about Kenny Jones? Is he still around? He worked a lot with Louis.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw Louis back, 25 years ago
Yeah,
was the
he
last time I
passed
saw.
away. Yeah. What an electrician he was.
What a mind on him. So,
Incredible.
all right, well, that's the end of this episode. We're going to come back and we'll talk about when we reunited over at the Hilton, and move forward from there. So, Until then, Talbot, take it away.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Yeah, I work with Kenny quite a bit at different places.
Are you good? Do you need to use restroom or anything? It's right there.
No, so far I'm good.
You good? Okay. Don't be shy.
I don't drink much when I'm moving around.